Barbara Roberts for governor. The change will do us good.
I'd like to begin by just taking a couple of minutes to tell you a few things about me. I know some of you do know me, but there are others in the room who may not know very much about me, and I'd like to take a few minutes just to do that. I was born in Oregon, in Corvallis. I grew up in the little town of Sheridan, and that's a little town that was about 2,000 when I grew up, and it's about 2,000 now. Hasn't changed much. I married young and had 2 children and sort of intended to be a mom and a wife, and my life was supposed to go like that. Unfortunately, my older son was born with a severe handicap. He's autistic. And in 1971, I decided my son had the right to a public education. And at that time, both state and federal law did not allow children with severe disabilities to go to public school. So I was a single parent by then. I went down to the Oregon legislature, and I began the efforts to lobby a bill through the Oregon legislature that would give educational rights to children like my son. Everyone told me when I started it would probably take 6 years to be successful in getting that kind of a change through the Oregon legislature. But my son didn't have 6 years. He was growing up, and I wanted him to be educated. So I worked very hard, not only in my private life, but as a citizen in Oregon, to try to make the contributions I think make my communities and my state better. So I hope as we go through this election process that you'll get a chance to know me better, but I wanted to share a few of those things with you today. For the last 5.5 years since I've been Oregon Secretary of State, I've had the distinct pleasure of running in many ways, a very unique agency. Most people know I do the Elections Division. I think that's the one they understand. But I also have the Audits Division. I audit all of state government, which is a very big job. I have about 80 state auditors who work for me. I'm in charge of the Corporations Division and the Notary Public Office and the Archives, which is all the historical records of Oregon, which has been a very special piece of my job for me. I sit on the State Land Board with the governor and the state treasurer, and we manage about 2 million acres of state land. And I'm in charge of the Board of Accountancy and the Board of Tax Examiners, so it's a very broad agency. There are about 250 people who work for my agency. And we spent the last 5.5 years making certain that we had the best managed state agency in state government. My proposal is one that in many cases Oregonians sort of flinch at, and that's the issue of using a sales tax to replace Oregon's property tax for schools. I believe that we can get rid of about half of the property taxes for schools in Oregon by replacing them with what I call an Oregon sales tax, which is not like the sales tax that they have in other states. It has some special tamper-proof protections in it. You would not have that sales tax on food or on housing, on utilities. You would not have it on medical care and prescriptions. You'd have a low-income tax credit for what I refer to as sort of blue jeans and tennis shoes. I think if we did that in Oregon, that we have a chance for the first time in our state's history to bring equity and real balance back into the system for funding schools, as well as getting rid of part of your property taxes, which I think we all support. Well, I'm pro-choice, first of all, because I feel very strongly that that is a decision that rests with every woman to make for herself. It is not a government decision, and government ought not to be involved in that decision. The problem is more than just the spotted owl. We've had a timber supply problem in Oregon for over 10 years. We've been closing mills for over a decade in the state. And the timber supply problem is one that we can deal with in Oregon no matter what happens with a final decision on the spotted owl. So I strongly believe we've got to quit exporting logs off of state lands and off of the federal lands that are here in Oregon. In terms of the private lands that grow timber in Oregon, I think we can either offer incentives or disincentives to encourage those private owners to keep their trees and their logs here in Oregon and let us manufacture here in this state. Of all the timber states in the nation, Oregon does about the least secondary wood products. We can take second growth timber and we can take the mills in this state and do all kinds of secondary wood products. Door frames and window frames and doors and industrial wood products and spars and all kinds of other products made out of wood, so Oregon workers have good jobs in the industry they have chosen to place themselves. I think that's one of the other places we can make a tremendous difference. There are other long-range kinds of choices we can make about retooling the mills and about how we retrain workers, and also the management of the state and federal forests. Those are important because they produce more timber if we manage them better. I'm willing to work to make those jobs happen, to make that investment happen in retooling and in workers, both here in Oregon, where we can make a tremendous difference. And I'm ready to go back to Washington, D.C. to make sure they help us invest in this state as I think we deserve from the federal government. You can't lead if you're not willing to be controversial occasionally. You can't walk out on the end of that limb and do what's necessary for Oregon's future if you can't make tough choices. The difference between Dave and I is I have a record of taking on the tough jobs, taking on the tough issues, and saying where I am. So Oregonians say, I know where Barbara Roberts is, even when I don't agree with her. I know where she is, and I care more about that political courage than I do someone who agrees with me on every issue. I want to thank you for being with us today. I can't tell you how pleased I am that I could come in and talk with you in this sort of almost direct way today, and I thank you for taking the time to come and to listen to the issues and give me a chance to answer some of the questions that many Oregonians are concerned about in terms of Oregon today and Oregon tomorrow. So I appreciate your letting me do that. I also hope that as you watch this race, that as you watch the candidates in this race for governor, that you will feel a very strong commitment that I will share with you to the state of Oregon and where we're going in the future. I need you to help me become the governor of Oregon. I can't do it by myself. It takes a lot of people to make it happen and a lot of commitment to make it happen. I want you to be part of this campaign. I need you to be part of this campaign. I need you to help me make a difference during the campaign, and I need you to help me make a difference in Oregon's future. And if I'm your governor, I promise you that will be a positive difference. I hope we can do it together.